Community development is well understood in the social sciences, but not so much in business and law. They speak a little bit different language. And so I think social enterprise will be a terrific vehicle for us to be able to work together. They get the enterprise, we get the social, and we'll all be able to work together very well.
Social enterprise is a part of is a tool for social change, and that's what it should be looked at. That it really needs to live not just in the business schools, it really needs to live in the social work schools and in the public policy sector, in those other areas.
Coming from public policy, we're looking at the urban core or an urban place as our client and our business. How can we make it profitable? How can we sustain it? How can we make it just?
I was interested in creating a much more powerful impact on some of the most difficult problems that we face. For example, the millions of people who are unemployed because they have various disadvantages and they can't get into the workplace, can't find their way in. I thought that the combination of nonprofits, government, and the private sector working together to create real businesses that could offer a first step into the workforce for those people and a sustainable business model with real outcomes was a very exciting prospect.
My definition of a social enterprise is a business whose primary purpose is to accomplish the common good. And if you start with that definition, then as a business, a social enterprise needs to excel. And it needs to excel in a way that it is competitive in the marketplace with any other business in its industry.
We need to be able to address social needs, but we also need to do it in such a way that we are giving people long-term tools. Charity is great, but it's not enough, because what happens when the charity is gone? People need to be able to have jobs, they need to be able to have homes, they need to be able to have access to education. That's what community economic development is all about. I think that blending that with social enterprise in such a way that governments understand that social enterprise is a strategy for them to achieve their goals. Every city has a goal of economic development and community development, and they all approach it in many different ways. But thinking about social enterprise as a strategy for public policy and for the public sector to approach those goals, now that's very innovative.
Social enterprise is driven by practitioners. It has to be driven from the field back toward academia and from the field back toward the legislative halls. So academia needs to provide the intellectual discipline, perhaps, for doing the research and the tracking and the demonstration of efficacy over time. And the government has to create conditions in which social enterprises can thrive. And that can be done through setting up new legal structures, setting up incentives, setting up bully pulpits, whatever the case might be. But it has to be driven by the practitioners themselves, or it's not going to be helpful at all.
When you look at what's going on in the UK and Canada and the United States, and the UK is far ahead of us, but there's a common language, there's an ability to say this is what government can contribute, and the fact that what we have in the White House right now is an Office of Social Innovation, and that Social Innovation Office includes social enterprise. So this topic is on the map.
We haven't always had a favorable public policy environment for social enterprise, but we have an administration in Washington, and we actually have both parties really excited about the promise of social enterprise, how to deliver more social services for less money, how to get people from being unemployed to being employed, how to get people who don't have the ability to graduate from high school or get the kind of education they need, how do we get them educated so they can be successful in society? And so as social entrepreneurs, I think we're looking at today's government environment as a whole new opportunity to kind of shape policy, change the way traditional business is done, reshape the way traditional charity is done, and show them that this model of double bottom line approaches is actually the most effective way for society to accomplish its social objectives.
If we can create a definition and a line of thinking around community development that becomes a standard for how to be sustainable, that will be a contribution of knowledge to the field.